Jonathan Turley joins us for analysis of this. And, sir, thanks for coming back. Two things I want to point out here. Trey Gowdy was on our program yesterday. Before I play what he considers to be the appropriate charge here, the New York Times estimates that 40% of undocumented immigrants in America have overstayed their visas, which would apply to this suspect in Colorado. Here's Gowdy on the potential charges. Watch.
I am not in favor of adding elements to prosecutors. It makes their job more difficult. Why is murder not enough? Why is arson not enough? Why is assault with intent to kill not enough? Why do we have to label things hate crime, terrorism? You're making the job harder for the prosecutors when you have to prove an extra element.
Yeah, I want you to respond to that. Also in the Times report, the last report about these overstayed visas that was considered reliable was 1994. Our system's a mess. Go ahead, Professor.
Let me start with that, Bill, and hi, Dana. We are really in a system here that is near collapse in terms of its being effective in achieving what we designed it for. This is a great case to look at to see what's wrong with the system. He overstayed his visa. And then immediately filed, or shortly thereafter filed, for asylum. The vast majority of asylum cases are rejected, but it gives you years in the system because it is so overloaded. And this is the same pattern that plays itself out. Now, the vast majority of those people, thank God, are not people like this, are not terrorists, are not horrible human beings planning an attack like this. But the system itself shows this familiar pattern unfolding. Now, as for this guy, he is never going to see another day outside of jail. He is guaranteed life imprisonment. He has already incriminated himself. Even if he had stayed silent, this would be a lead pipe cinch on a terrorism case. So he's going to be gone. But the fact is, the injuries that he left in his wake are going to be lingering and lasting. The very thought that this guy was an Uber driver and that you had people driving around with this man, including Jewish passengers, while he was contemplating burning Jewish people alive. I mean, the very thought of it is chilling.
Yeah. Jonathan, two they are legal questions. The first one is that the Daily Wire reports that weeks before this attack, Colorado Democrats passed a law shielding illegals from ICE. Now, maybe that wouldn't have mattered here, but there is a pattern, I would imagine, of this happening. The second question is, and I think it maybe is part of the same thing, which is if you have an illegal immigrant or somebody who's here legally, even, let's say that he applied for the gun permit, but they know that his visa is going to expire, and he could be somebody that might overstay the visa, and they deny him the gun because he's not a citizen. But shouldn't that be a red flag for law enforcement to say, why is this guy all of a sudden wanting a gun?
I would think so, although, I think many gun rights advocates are a little bit leery of the government reporting every time someone looks at guns or is denied a permit. Sure. But in this case, you have a non-citizen, somebody who shouldn't have a gun. And I think you're right, Dana, about that. And I also think that these jurisdictions, again, are out of step with the American people and the moment that we're in. They're making it as difficult as possible on ICE to move people who are here illegally out of the country. And it really puts the lie to the claim that, we're in favor of enforcing immigration laws when all you do is throw sand into the works. And it creates an added burden for the Trump administration. Mm-hmm. They've been very honest. They're trying to find any avenue they can to expedite millions of people who came in during the Biden administration.
Here is Tom Homan last night with Sean. Roll this.
The Biden administration were bringing people unvetted, handing out work visas like they're candy, while they sat here and planned something bad. We are going to be dealing with this for the next 10 years. because of the chaos they created in 4 years.
He might not be wrong about that. DHS with an alert out. Concerned that successful homeland attacks and messaging from foreign terrorist organizations and their supporters linked to the Israel-Hamas conflict will continue to inspire violent extremists to mobilize to violence in the United States. You think about that now. So there's more to come is what they're saying. And there's a report in Axios today about Jewish lawmakers who work in Washington, D.C. Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter. They are talking openly now about how they are concerned with their own safety and security.
No, this is a problem around the world, including, by the way, asylum abuse, the gaming of the system. Germany just lost a major case yesterday in which they were trying to deal with their own burgeoning claims of asylum, where they were trying to do expedited hearings and turn these people back at the border. The EU says you can't do that. You've got to give them individual hearings, which takes years. And the result then is exactly what we've seen in the United States. The system gets bogged down, and you can't move that many cases, which is what Holman's talking about. And so in many ways, this is a colossal failure, not just in the court system, but also in Congress. You know, they also have to step up and say, this is a real national security problem, and we need to create more expedited methods or courses or pathways to move people back out of the country who were not supposed to be here to begin with.
Thank you, Jonathan Turley. Great to kick off the show with you today.
Thank you.